readers, welcome to KrisKa Literaria. Today's video lecture is about the Old English period. Before getting into the topic, subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get instant updates. Talking of the literary periods, as we already saw in our previous video, the periodizations are made in accordance with the characteristics of each age. Thus, there are different periods in English literature, each of which we will be seeing in our upcoming videos. Today, in this video, what we will be seeing is the first period, that is the Old English period. The Old English period covers over 700 years, starting from 5th to 11th century. But there are debates among historians that the Old English period should not be considered as the starting point of English literature, but it is the age of Chaucer which is the real beginning point of English literature. However, though of less importance, we are going to consider the Old English period in our literary history, as it is significant to know the background and origin of both the land and its language before learning about the literature. We'd see about the socio-political history of England in this video lecture. During this period, England was under constant invasions and attacks, one after the other. We can see about all the inhabitants of England during this period in a sequential manner. First to see is the prehistorical or pre-Romanic period, which existed up to 55 BC. The original inhabitants of England were the Celts, the native tribes of Britain. There were Brythons and Gaels among these Celts. It is from the term Brythons that the land was named Britain. These natives of Britain were basically pagans. Pagans, we see, were the worshippers of animals and nature. They believed divinity in nature, and the nature teaches and provides them everything. And also, one of the wonders, the Stonehenge, is said to have built during this period. Next, in 55 BC came the Roman invasion. Actually, these Romans were repeatedly invading Britain, but only could succeed with the invasion of Julius Caesar in 55 BC, and the invasion was completed in 1st century AD with Claudius. This Roman invasion was not an aggressive one, but it made the native Celts migrate. In 122 AD, Hadrian's wall was built by King Hadrian to prevent attacks from Scottish tribes. However, Romans had to leave in 407 AD as Rome was under the attack of Visigoths, who were Germanic invaders. And it is important to know this Saint Augustine, who landed in Kent during 597 AD, as he was the one to introduce Christianity in Britain. He converted King Ethelbert, who was a Saxon settler, into Christianity and became the first Archbishop of Canterbury. It is through him the Christianity spread in England. So, we must know the important events that took place as a result of the Roman invasion. First of all, the Roman invasion brought changes that are both cultural and historical. It was the Romans who set up a standard government and a strong military in England. They also improved the infrastructures by building walls, villas, public baths, etc. However, the invasion of the Romans pushed the native Celts into Wales and Ireland. The settlement of Romans prevented the Vikings from invading for several years. As we already said, the Roman occupation was not an aggressive one, it only brought relative peace in England. In the words of C. Warren, Rome's greatest gift to Britain was peace. At this time, Latin became the official language of England, and it heavily influenced the English language. Language and writing started to develop during this period. The Romans had the practice of recording history, and this led to the earliest English literature documentary. Also, Christianity began its hold in England, yet paganism was not fully replaced by it. Next to the Roman invasion came the Anglo-Saxon period, which is also called the Old English period. After the Romans withdrew, Britain was under severe attacks. The settlement of the Romans was so for preventing Britain from invasions, but as the Romans left, Picts and Scots from North and Ireland attacked Britain. It was at the same time Anglo-Saxons, Jutes and Geats invaded England. The Angles and Saxons were from the Baltic shores of Germany, Jutes were from Jutland Peninsula of Denmark, and Geats also were tribes of Jutland. At this point, the defenseless Celts, in order to prevent the Picts and Scots, invited Angles and Saxons into their land. But it only had a reverse effect. The Angles, Saxons and Jutes started to settle and spread all over England. As a result, the Celts were totally displaced from England. They were driven to mountain areas and Wales. The dominance of Angles among the other tribes in the land formed the name Angleland, which then became England, which we call now. There are 5 different settlements in England, which was called the Anglo-Saxon Heptarchy. The 7 sovereign kingdoms come under the Heptarchy are the Kent, Essex, which is East Saxon, Sussex, the South Saxon, East Anglia, Northumbria, Mercia and Wessex, which is West Saxon. The 4 main dialects spoken in all these regions are the Northumbrian dialect, which was the one to first form oral literature, the Mercian, the Kentish and the last and important West Saxon. This dialect attained standard and supremacy over other dialects. This is due to the political supremacy of Wessex, and its king Alfred the Great encouraged art and literature. In later part of the 7th century, Vikings invaded England. These Vikings are seafaring Scandinavians who were ruthless and violent, continuously invaded the land. The first Viking raid began around 787 AD and the second one in 866 AD. In 866 AD, Vikings moved down from East Anglia and attacked Wessex. At the time, Alfred the Great, one of the important persons in the English literary history, was the king of Wessex. What he did is, he united all the 7 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms against the Vikings. Thus, he consolidated power and proclaimed him as the king of Anglo-Saxons. He formed a new code of conduct and also encouraged arts and literature, about which we will be seeing in the next video. In 876 AD, England fell into the hands of the Danes, who were the tribes from Denmark and Norway. They occupied most of England, covering Mercia, East Anglia and Northumbria, and introduced a new code of conduct, which is called the Dane Law. Seeing the results of Viking invasion, both political and cultural changes took place. There was constant tribal wars in England due to political instability and conflict. Linguistically, English language is born during the first millennium, which is called the Old English. It was mainly Germanic in grammar and lexicon. From 1003 to 1013 AD, there were continuous invasions. What brought an end to the Anglo-Saxon period as well as the Danes was the Norman conquest in 1066 AD. The Normans were powerful northern Frenchmen from Normandy. They defeated the English in the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Actually, what was happening in England during this time was the Battle of Stamford, in which the Dane king defeated the Norwegian army, who were also Vikings. And this Battle of Stamford finally put an end to the Viking invasion. The Dane king did not survive for too long. He died within weeks after the Battle of Stamford. Now, as England was without a king, the Normans invaded. It was soon after the war, and thus England was unprepared for another war. William the Conqueror of Normandy landed in Kent. He defeated Harold Godwin, the last known Anglo-Saxon king, and became the king of Britain. The Norman invasion totally changed the history of England and the English language. Politically, England, after all the tribal wars, is now unified under the French political system. As the result of the Norman invasion, French became the official language of politics and power. It exerted enormous influence upon the Old English language. For over 300 years, French was the language of power. However, the peasants and lower class continued using English, and thus the two languages developed in parallel, resulting in the merging of Old English and Anglo-Norman to form the Middle English. So that's all for today's video lecture. In next video we can learn about the Old English literature. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. The links are in the description below. Thank you.